This episode is in partnership with Authority Magazine. Authority Magazine, a Medium publication, is devoted to sharing in-depth and interesting interviews featuring people who are authorities in business, pop culture, wellness, social impact, and tech.
Joining me once again as guest co-host is the wonderful Jane Sibbett. Jane is a talented actress, storyteller, best known for her role in Friends. Jane is also a writer, producer, director, photographer, advocate, and source conduit. Yes, she has her hands full, and I'm grateful to call her my friend. Today's guest is Dr. Julian Neal, a pioneer in naturopathic healing who is exploring the mind-body connection long before it became mainstream. With over 30 years of experience, he's not just practicing natural medicine, he's redefining it, traveling the world to research powerful remedies and educate the next generation of healers. Dr. Neal, welcome to Believe in People.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to meet you both.
Thank you. Well, you've been exploring natural healing long before it was even trendy. What was the defining moment for you in your life that set you on this path? Like, what was that?
Well, I started as a psychoanalyst in psycho-oncology and working with cancer patients. I've worked with cancer patients my entire career.
Wow.
And I used to run a cancer foundation for 20 years. And the last 20 years, I run the health division of an international child development organization, working with mostly special needs kids around the world. I still have cancer patients, but anyway, I was a psycho-oncologist, and then I decided I needed to take care of my patients' health as well as their mental health. So then I became a naturopath. And eventually I gave up my life for a year and lived in an ashram and became a yoga teacher and meditation teacher. And I've been doing that for almost 40 years now.
Wow. Remarkable. That is such a beautiful path. When you say psycho-oncologist, does that mean you're working specifically with cancer patients to be their therapist?
Yes. To help them through the mental difficulties that one faces when they have that kind of a disease. One thing I always say to my patients, though, is try to focus on what the disease is doing for you, not what it's doing to you. And that's hard for people because I have cancer. It's doing something to me. It's disrupted my life. But when we focus on things as being an opportunity to change, when we have a serious illness, all that's really telling us is that this is an opportunity where we have to make changes in our life. And based on what I do, I don't separate mind. What I mean by spirit is energy. So every atom in your body is 99.99999% air, space, energy. And it's only 0.00001% matter. Einstein said there is no matter. We are just spirit reduced to the point of visibility. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, spirit in spirituality and working with the spirit, I'm working with the energy of the body. And when we have an illness, it's happening certainly on the physical level, but that to me is a metaphor for what else is going on the emotional and spiritual plane.
Yes.
Wow.
Beautiful, profound, and helpful on so many levels. Thank you for your work. It's remarkable. Truly.
And I mean, certainly too, you think about it, Julian, and you were a pioneer in this area, and how long did it take for people to catch up? Because they think, oh man, this is so woo-woo, and they don't embrace it. And yet this is really all we have. Really.
Right. Well, let me say I'm thrilled that we've come much closer to this belief, or at least this belief is now out there. Yes, when I started 45 years ago, it was Yeah, it was very different and new. And certainly there was obviously a lot of work that has been done. But, the pharmaceutical industry really has taken
Yeah.
hold. And again, of course, with COVID, there was a reemergence with that. But the awareness now of natural products, not using toxic chemicals, the chemicals in our environment, and again, in all the products, is very detrimental. I have a hair care company that I originally started for my cancer patients and of course for my special needs clients as well, because they couldn't have toxic chemicals. And your skin is a sponge. You put an essential oil on your ankle, it'll show up in a hair analysis 20 minutes later. So what we put on our scalp and our hair, it gets absorbed in the body, and the brain, of course, is closest. So, having that natural, organic, everything from nature products is helpful and is a metaphor. And to me, everything in life, certainly on the physical plane, is just a metaphor for other things that operate on different planes.
It's amazing to me that people are still finding this out, but how amazing that you can do this work for so many people. So do you have a primary focus right now? You're still working with your cancer patients
Right.
and special needs?
Yes, I have both those patients, although I no longer run the health division of this organization. They still refer me patients and so on. I just don't really have the time right now to do it. So I just focus on my patients. I don't, I have a focus of healing,
Yeah.
whatever that is, and whatever people need. Of course, I now really am a Buddhist psychologist, although I use psychoanalytic principles, of course, in my work, because that does involve a spirit and works a lot on that plane as well. And certainly when patients come to me just for mental health, I don't separate. So most of the time they end up working with me naturopathically and hopefully meditatively as well.
It must be really difficult to think, we're so in our brain, and we think that, from the ego standpoint, which I know we need, how do you live in this world yourself, knowing that we're actually, not manifest, we're actually hanging on to things that are kind of irrelevant. Like, how do you navigate this world of yours, knowing that you kind of have an inside understanding of how the world kind of runs and how we as energy are created?
Well, I've always followed, my patients know, and I used to, I don't any longer, but I used to take yoga retreats around the world, and my patients would come with me. And so I've always walked my talk, and I just try to be the lighthouse. That's the way I look at it. I'm the lighthouse, and I just try to keep people from crashing on the rocks best I can, and of course myself.
Was it tough for you, Julian, initially? Like, how did you, with us mere mortals, seriously, like, how do we take that first step? You know what I mean? To sort of just, learn.
Well, I think it starts just with awareness. The minute you have an awareness that, hey, what I put in my body is going to influence how energetically and how it's going to operate, and it will operate emotionally and spiritually as well. So just that awareness is where the beginning for everyone is. It's that first step. In the beginning, it was very difficult, especially with cancer patients. The medical profession used to come after me a lot, and it was a little difficult to navigate. I couldn't tell people not to do treatments and I don't tell my patients what to do. I really look at things in terms of function. If you do this, this is how the function of the body will operate. If you do that, this is how the function. And now it's a choice. And certainly my job is to help you make the best choice for you. I don't, believe that certainly one size fits all. Every body is a body and has its own set of operating standards, of course, and so, and as you mentioned, the experiences we have certainly inform that operation. And so, the thing that drove me into yoga and meditation, I mean, first I happened to be one of those kids hitchhiking up to New Hampshire to be with Ram Dass back in the late 60s.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really have that kind of a yogic practice until I had three types of cancer patients. I had some that did the psychotherapy, did the diet and nutrition, and they did well. I had others that sort of did it, kind of did the diet, nutrition. Unfortunately, they did not do well. And then I had a third type of patient that was doing everything exactly like the first, but they were not getting that result. They still, too, were not doing well. And so, as I say, everything we've created in the world is based on the laws of the human body. There isn't anything you can mention that I can't tell you the law of the human body that created that. And so the brain is essentially, this is simplistic but accurate, the brain is essentially a computer. And like a computer, you can load applications and programs all day long. But when you go to run those applications, let's say you have an application, I can heal myself. You go to run that program, it says not enough memory to run this program. We've all run into that with our computer. Well, essentially, that's the way it works for us as well. We're holding on to your point, Amy. We're holding on to old events that we haven't let go of, that are still, informing what we do. And that's why I say disease is always an opportunity to look at that and be able to change that so that, again, a new path of healing and balance can happen.
That's so beautiful. So if you were to, so you have your patients, but how about for the person who wants to make sure they maintain health? So you have the diet, you have the meditation, and you have yoga. These are, because your website has it laid out beautifully, but is this what you would recommend for most all people?
Yes, is the simple answer. William James, the American philosopher William James, said the greatest weapon we have against stress is the ability to choose one thought over another.
Yes.
And the only thing I found in all these years that allows us to train to do that is meditation. And so it's a process, and we can start simply, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, something very simple, but just that time where we are focused. Again, this gets a little more complicated. I give people what's called a mudra, which is a hand position, and a mantra. We've all heard that word. Mantra in Sanskrit means, man means mind, and a tra is a protection. So a mantra is a mind protection. And essentially why I like to use mantra, although there are many ways to meditate, why I like to start people with a mantra is because we're really trying to get to the right side of the brain, the experiential sensorial brain, where the left brain is the organizing, identifying brain. And most of us are lost in that identifying thought, what we need to do, what happened, what we're going to do, what was done to us, all those things. And so by occupying that left brain with a mantra and a mudra, we can start to get access more specifically to that right brain by letting that left brain just keep focusing on repeating this phrase or doing this hand practice.
Fantastic. There's obviously some overlap in my experience too, so I'm thrilled to hear you articulate this so beautifully as well.
Thank you.
I know, right? It's so true. And I know, Julian, you've traveled, and this is what I was fascinated about your hair products, and I want to talk about that.
Yes,
So
please.
you've traveled the world researching exotic raw materials. What's the
Right.
most surprising or powerful natural remedy you've discovered, if any?
Well, I took a yogic retreat to Iceland because they had a cancer clinic. I mean, there were many reasons, but one was this was an adjunct reason, but there was a cancer clinic, and I was running the foundation at the time in Iceland, and I watched people with other things, rheumatoid arthritis and other illnesses, and they were gnarled and they could barely walk, and they would get in these volcanic mud baths, and 20 minutes later they come out and they were ready to dance, essentially. And so and of course the sea is right there, and so the two products I brought back from my original formulations. Now I do it obviously with a lab and commercially, but originally I was just making this in my naturopathic workshop for my patients. I brought back bentonite clay, memorialite clay, which is edible clay, and also seaweed and algae, which are the essence of life. So just those two products alone, although I have oils and all kinds of other ingredients, but algae brings oxygenation and nutrition. It's like, my products we call them tonics because they truly are healing tonics. And you leave them on a little bit so that the scalp and hair can absorb these nutrients. And of course, the clay, every cell of the body needs four things. It needs fresh hydration, it needs fresh oxygen, it needs fresh nutrition, and you have to remove the waste.
Yeah.
If you cannot remove the waste, the cell can't absorb all these beneficial things. So there's a little bentonite clay which also moisturizes and heals and does many things, but it also draws out those impurities so that the nutrition that's in the shampoos and the oils and so on can absorb into the hair and scalp and grow your hair, or heal. I have a medicinal formula that heals dandruff, psoriasis, eczema, all of these things, which of course are systemic, but we experience them topically. I also make a hair tonic tea, an ingestible, because the same nutritional profile that grows your hair also takes care of your skin, your bones, your teeth, and most important, a depleted nervous system, because hair is an extension of your nervous system.
So you ingest that. Can anybody take that?
Take my formulas?
Yeah, the tea.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, cool.
And I mean, I'm prejudiced, but my patients and all our customers love it. It's delicious. It's 11 different herbs, fruits, and flowers. Yeah, it's not like you have to drink mud. It's beautiful.
So much of Chinese medicine is just like, oh, but
right.
Great. Yes, right.
Yeah.
Oh, exciting. This is so exciting. I can't wait to immediately order.
Me too.
Oh, thank you.
Me too.
There's a welcome 20 on the website. When you go there, the neilnaturopathic.com, there's give us your email and you can get 20% off to try it. And
cool.
So Dr. Neil, so if we wanted to come, do we have to come to Los Angeles to work with you, or do people meet you online?
No, I have patients literally all over the world.
Right.
Unfortunately, I say, after COVID, even my patients in Los Angeles want to work with me on the phone or, on video. I have an office. I prefer people come in. I like the energy of being in the office, but, the child development organization I work with is an international organization. So we have clients all over the world as well, and video, and in the beginning, Skype was before Zoom was the big way we work with those.
Wow, that's cool. And Dr. Neal, with so much conflicting health information and advice out there, how
Mm.
does an everyday person separate real healing wisdom with kind of the wellness fads that are out there? Like, how do we decipher it?
That's a good point. It's a frustrating point for someone like me, and I'll give you an example in a second. But I always say to my patients, I love the internet because everything's available at your fingertips, and I hate the internet because everything's available at your
Yeah.
fingertips. And what happens is one, let's be kind, misguided person writes something, and then 20 other people go, oh, that, and then repeat it. And so then they come to me often and say, hey, but I saw on the internet, da, 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 da. So yes, it's a difficult path. I mean, and you have to find the people that know really what they're doing.
Yeah.
I use the example of water. There is no pure water on the planet. So the only water I drink and that I recommend my patients drink is distilled water. Now, if you go to the internet, they'll say, don't drink distilled water. It will leach minerals out of your body. And again, this is what happens. It's a half truth. Yes, distilled water leach minerals from your body, but they leach the inactive, inert, sludge minerals you want released from the body. And the other misconception is that people think they want their mineral water because they need minerals. But the only way the human body absorbs minerals is from a plant. When you eat the plant is the only way, or you eat the animal that ate the plant. We do not get active, bioactive, usable minerals from water. So we want that sludge mineral out of the body, and we want to put the beneficial minerals in. If I put a rusty nail and I suck on it, I'm putting Fe, iron, in my body, but I don't metabolize rusty nail or calcium from an oyster shell. But if I put both at the root of the plant through photosynthesis will turn that Ca or Fe into a bioavailable iron or calcium when I eat that plant or the animal that ate the plant.
Do you think we should be eating meat, by the way? Sorry, I just had to ask this question.
Go, please do.
Humans should be eating meat?
Well, I think there are many, for many people, that's an ethical decision, certainly. And I'm horrified by the way we treat animals in this country, or in the world, I should say. I think it depends on, so that certainly is a consideration. If you are a vegetarian or a vegan, it becomes harder to maintain certain things, protein in the body and the right balance of amino acids and so on to utilize that protein. So again, you really do have to know what you're doing in order to be a vegetarian, because what happens often is the body in its wisdom is trying to survive. So if it's lacking nutrition, and this is true, we see it in pregnancy all the time, when the host, the body, is making another organism, it's going to pull those nutrients from the musculoskeletal system. And so when we're vegetarian or vegan, we have to be very specific about how to get that protein. And so meat, the best way to say this is that amino acid, you cannot process protein without amino acids. And amino acids, for simplistic, is like a necklace strung in a certain order. And meat just happens to have the most amount of amino acids strung in the right order. So it is the highest form of protein. Now, things like hemp seeds have more protein than meat, have more protein than fish, and so on. But they lack the amino acids in that order. So again, you have to figure out how to do that in order to use it.
Yeah.
Of red meat, I recommend buffalo, bison, organic bison, because grass-fed, of course, because that is the highest form of protein, as is certain fish when it's not farm raised. But yes, we can do that, organic chickens and so on. But, again, all that, there was a movement for cage-free chickens, and all they would do is cut a little hole. Yeah. But they were still stacking their boxes one on top of the other, and they were defecating and urinating on each other. They were pulling their beaks off. They were doing, the way they make food is just, as I say, horrific and sad. So that you have to be careful with that.
Yeah.
And hard for people to raise their own. We used to raise on our farm. We used to raise chickens, and it's a whole psychology. We certainly didn't want to ever eat them once we were raising them. It was all about for the eggs, and now we're not eating eggs so much. There's so many cautionary tales out there about what's best to eat. Just to go back to the water just for a second. So I know that many people that are on the cancer path are on alkaline water. Is this correct? No.
Again,
misnomer.
We need, yes, it is. We do need to balance there are only 4 things that go wrong with the human body, only 4. And one of them is over acidity. Mm-hmm. So being alkaline is great, obviously better than being over acidic. We have many chances to be acidic in how our digestion is acidic. Our stomach is run by hydrochloric acid, the intestinal system run by oxalic acid, nerve channels have an acidic fluid surrounded by an alkaline myelin sheath. The battery in our car was replicated from our nervous system. But the universe, God, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it, creator, is perfect. And water is in 75% of the earth, 75% of our body. It's perfect as it is. And once you start messing with it, it's just not the same in my mind. Mm-hmm. So yes, we do need to be alkaline or more alkaline, because here's something else, every time we breathe, we produce an emotion, energy in motion. That's where that word comes from. And, but when we, and that flows up the body in yoga, we call them chakras, the glandular points of the body. The glands are the guardians of your health. But we shut that down in psychology with something called body armor. And they correspond closely to the chakras. They differ slightly in the head area. Instead of the pineal and pituitary gland, we have the ocular and vocal region. But then it gets on track: thoracic, chest, abdominal, pelvic, legs. Mm-hmm. When, the lungs, where your thymus gland is, the number 1 gland for your immune system, and this area holds murderous rage, deep longing, extreme sorrow, and extreme joy, all the heavy stuff right here. The byproduct of unfelt feeling is acid. So often I can put people on the most alkaline diet in the world, but if I can't help them get out of stress, that's what we mean by stress. If I cannot help them, that's the biggest acid producer that we have. Then it's 2 steps forward for 2 steps back or worse.
Yeah. Wow, you are fascinating. You're the coolest dude. And I mean, there's so much to learn from you.
Tell my children that.
We're going to do a part 10. Well, we are coming to the end of our podcast, which is such a drag but I'm absolutely trying to tea, and I was looking at your hair products, and they're just really cool. And I wanted to ask you, because this is called Believe in People, what is it about people that you believe in, Dr. Neil?
Their resilience, their ability to change. No matter what has happened, what's gone on, they have, the body is regenerative and resilient at any age. I went through my own bout with blood cancer. It's one of the rarest cancers in the world, or it is the rarest cancer in the world. If you Google it, it says terminal untreatable. But here I am, cancer-free for a good number of years, and at almost 73. So you know, the body can heal itself at any age, and that's true, obviously, for me, and it's true for anyone who is willing to do the work.
Amazing.
Oh,
Wow. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's been my blessing. Thank you both so much.
we want to come right over to your house.
I know, right?
We want to play
There.
music with you and meditate.
Yeah.
I'll play drums, you play guitar.
Okay.
There we go.
What a
you
joy
so
to
much.
meet you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You both take good care.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Namaste.
Okay.
Wow, I could talk to him for hours. But the fact that, you know, that he really is a pioneer in the work that he's done, and the fact that he's helped so many people, and his knowledge is incredible. I'm inspired by him and want to learn, and it motivates me to learn even more. So I am so grateful that he was able to take some time and be on our podcast. Wow, thank you.
I am too. And I mean, his website has a lot of great information, but to actually speak to him, I'm hungry for more. So Amy, thank you for bringing him into our lives. This is wonderful.
Well, thank you. And if you believe in Dr. Julian Neal, and please believe in us too, and subscribe to Believe in People. Thanks, everyone.